You may be seated. Good morning. My name is Joe Miller, and it's my privilege to be your worship associate this morning and to join Lisa Jacobs, who will be doing our sermon and so on. So I want to start with a couple of announcements. One of those is that in a couple of weeks we have our 14th annual chili chocolate homebrew. And this is a wonderful event on a Saturday evening. We have competitions in chili, chocolate competitions for adults and children, and an adults-only competition, as you can understand, in brewing. So it's a great time. I just really encourage you to get it on your calendar and come out and enjoy your time with it. The other thing I will mention is that under the leadership of Mark Bernstein and a number of other folks, we're re-looking at our covenant. And we have a covenant, you'll see it shortly, but every congregations, every so often, re-look at their covenant. And it's a covenant between those of us in the congregation we make to each other. And it's important, and they're having some listening sessions. I think this week, they're in the connections, the links to those sessions, and they just want feedback from the congregation. Anything, ideas that you have around that are important. And now an announcement I want to make that's particularly important to me. Next Saturday at 1 p.m., there'll be a memorial service for Bob Beanie. Now, a lot of folks don't remember Bob Beanie. Joyce, of course, remembers everybody. But Bob was a true steward and leader in this congregation for a number of years. And I served with Bob on the board at one time, and he was a wonderful, wonderful man. So we'll be celebrating his life Saturday at 1 p.m., and all are invited. Yes, yes. So with that said, I'd like to invite Barb Florio to come up and light our chalice this morning and for us to recite our current covenant when we get it up on the screen there. Wonderful. Okay, enriched by our differences and joined together in our search for meaning, we covenant with ourselves and each other to seek truth in a spirit of love, to strive for justice, and to serve others with a joyful heart. And now let's stand and greet each other and spend a few minutes chatting, huh? All right, now please take your seats. Please take your seats as we settle into worship with our centering song. In this season, I imagine many of us have joys in our hearts over family gatherings, memories of holiday past, and maybe even a gift that we gave or were given. But it can also be a time of sorrow, sorrow for those we lost over the past year, for a relationship we're struggling with, for a world that continues to struggle with pain and suffering of war and famine and injustice. I invite you now to bring those things that are lifting your heart or weighing on it, and drop a stone in the bowl, which today is to your right. And notice while you're doing that, the other stones in the water. And realize that you're not alone here, but part of a community of joy and hope. drop a stone for those joys and sorrows that maybe go unspoken today, and also one for the joys and sorrows from those online. And so please remain seated as we sing Spirit of Life.
Yes, so there we go. Let me introduce what we're doing quickly, and then I'm going to hand this over to Bob Rowland, our music director. It's an interactive time for all ages. Bob is going to teach you our Apple Tree Wassail Carol. Then I'm going to tell the story, and then we're going to sing it all together to complete our time for all ages. So take it away, Bob.
Okay, there's some text up on the screen. Yes? Slides?
Slides. We need the words on the screen. There we go. Thank you.
It's the Apple Tree Wassail. It goes like this. On apple tree wassail we and hoping thou wilt bear. The Lord does know where we shall be to be merry another year. Let's try that. On apple tree wassail we and hoping thou wilt bear. The Lord doth know where we shall be to be merry another year. Good. Now here's the chorus. To grow well and to bear well, and so merry let us be. Let everyone drink of the cup. Here's the health to the old apple tree. Let's try the chorus. To grow well and to bear well, and so merry let us be. Let everyone drink of the cup. Here's the health to the old apple tree. To grow well and to bear well, and so merry let us be. Let everyone drink of the cup. Here's a health to the old apple tree.
Yep, let's do it.
Old apple tree, we wassail thee, and hoping thou wilt bear. The Lord doth know where we shall be to be merry another year. To grow well and to bear well, and so merry let us be. Let everyone drink up a cup. Here's a health to the old apple tree. To grow well and to bear well, and so merry let us be. Let everyone drink up a cup. Here's a health to the old apple tree. Yeah, you got it for when the time comes.
Thank you. All right. So, once upon a time, there was an old farmer. He had a cow and a horse and a barn. He had a field where he grew his vegetables, and he had an apple orchard. And for many years, it was a prosperous farm. His son grew up there, and it was all very happy. But his son grew up, as children do, and moved away to the city. And the old farmer got older and older, and he was too proud to admit that he needed help. And so little by little, the farm fell apart, and the weeds grew in the pasture, and the vegetable garden was overgrown with bindweed, which any of you gardeners know will be absolutely fatal. And finally, he was too old and sick to let the cow and the horse out of the barn or even to mend the roof over them. And eventually, he'd passed away. And the lawyer wrote to his son in the city and said, "Your father has left you the farm." And the son, who had always loved his farm, came home, remembering it as it was in his childhood, only to discover that the cow and the horse were old and weak and sick, and the barn was falling apart. And the apple orchard was full of dead wood and weeds, and the house he had grown up in was barely standing at all. And the lawyer came to him and said, "Well, it's a good piece of land. You could sell it to a developer. And did I mention your father's debts? Here they are. If you sell the land, you can pay them off." The son loved his father and he loved his land. And he told the lawyer, "No. See if you can get me 1 year, and I will find a way to pay off our debts and keep the farm." The lawyer said, "Okay, it's your life," and went away and negotiated, and the people his father owed money to granted him a year. Then the son went into the barn where the old cow and the old horse were, standing dejectedly in the dark. And he said, "Come out into the pasture, come out into the orchard. Eat good fresh grass, and let me see if I can mend your barn." So he led them out, and he turned them loose in the weedy field where the apple trees grew. And he went back in and he mucked out their stalls, and he mended the roof, and he opened the doors and let things air out. And when he came back, the cow and the horse were looking much better, and they were starting to put on some weight. He brushed them and curried out all the old hair that had been clotting up their soft fur. And he noticed that the cow and the horse had eaten some of the weeds around the apple trees, and things were starting to look a little better. And he went to the apple trees and he said, "I'm so sorry my father couldn't prune you and tend you as he used to do, but I will." And he went and got his pruning saw, and he trimmed out the old dead wood that itched, and he pulled off the ivy that was smothering the canopy of the apple trees. And for the first time in years, the spring sunlight reached the buds on the apple trees and they bloomed. Over time, the horse got stronger, and the son was able to hitch him to the plow. And he and the horse together managed to plow over the old vegetable patch. And he planted vegetables, and he had enough to eat. And he shared the vegetables with the cow and the horse, and the cow began to produce milk. All summer they worked, and the apple trees grew healthy and strong again. The fruit ripened on the branches, and in the fall, when the son harvested, he had enough apples, not just to eat himself and to share with his animals, but to take to the cider mill to be pressed into cider. Now, cider was their cash crop. That means that was the crop that they sold. And he had just enough money when he sold all of his cider to pay off his father's debts. But all this time, the one thing he hadn't gotten to do was fix the house. He'd been living in a tent in the apple orchard. And that worked great in the summer. He was with his animals. He was with his apple trees. It was where he wanted to be. But now it was Christmas Eve. And even in England, it starts to get cold around Christmas Eve. It was a warm winter like this. He could just about make it, but January and February were coming. So with the last of his cider that he hadn't sold, he went and he sang to the apple trees, as we just did. He toasted their good health. He thanked the apple trees for growing enough fruit to pay off his father's debts. He thanked his cow and his horse for sharing this time with him and for eating the weeds in the field so that they could be healthy and the apple trees could bloom. And then when he got to the last, oldest, tallest, biggest apple tree that he had climbed as a boy, he poured the last of his cup. And he said, "Old apple tree, thank you again for everything you have done for me. We've managed to bring the farm back, and I think I can sell it to another farmer who will love you. But I couldn't fix the house. There's no place for me to live this winter, and if I stay here, I will freeze. So I'm going away now, and I wish you all the best." And then the apple tree spoke. "My son, I am the old apple tree man. Your father never saw me, but every orchard has one. The oldest apple tree cares for all the other apple trees and blesses the farm and makes sure that the farm bears well. I've watched you work to help us all, and your work has saved us, given us new life. And so I give you a gift in return. Dig under my largest root, just there, and I think you will find something to help you." Well, the son went and got his shovel and very carefully dug just next to the root so he didn't hurt the apple tree. And he reached down in the hole, and there was a leather bag. And he opened it, and there was a whole hoard of gold coins from many different eras. And the apple tree spoke again. "This apple orchard is ancient. We have been here for generations, and every so often someone drops a coin, and we have saved them. Now I give them to you to save us all." And the son took the small bag of money down to the local carpenter and asked if it was enough, and the carpenter said, "Yes, it is enough to rebuild your house." And so, a gift for a gift, the son was able to save the farm, and the apple trees saved him. May we bless our apple orchards with song. And may we have the words back on the screen, which will come back in just a moment. There we are.
Old apple tree, Wassailing and hoping thou wilt bear. The Lord does know where we shall be to be merry another year. To blow well and to bear well and so merry let us see. Let everyone drink up a cup, here's a health to the old apple tree. To blow well and to bear well and so merry let us be. Let everyone drink up a cup, here's a health to the old apple tree.
That was fun. We are a community of gratitude. And one way we show that is by each of us sharing in the financial stewardship of our community. And when I think of two we lost, Dennis Leeper and Bob Beanie, I mentioned earlier, they were true stewards in every way of our community. I want to thank you for the contributions you've made to our community this year and the ones that you'll make in the year to come. Please use the text to give capability, or there are boxes in the back where you can drop a check and so forth. And your contribution will be gratefully received. Thank you.
Wassail, wassail all over the town. Our bread it is white and our ale it is brown. Our bowl it is made of the white maple tree. With the wassailing bowl we'll drink to thee. Here's a
Our reading this morning is from Botany of Desire by David Poland. If you happen to find yourself on the banks of the Ohio River on a particular afternoon in the spring of 1806, you would probably have noticed a strange makeshift craft drifting lazily down the river. The particular craft you'd have caught sight of that afternoon consisted of a pair of hollowed-out logs that had been lashed together to form a rough catamaran, a sort of canoe plus a sidecar. In one of the dugouts lounged the figure of a skinny man of about 30, who may have or may not have been wearing a burlap coffee sack for a shirt and a tin pot for a hat. The other hull, his sidecar, was riding low in the water under the weight of a small mountain of seeds. The fellow snoozing in the canoe was John Chapman, already well known to the people of Ohio by his nickname, Johnny Appleseed. The image of John Chapman and his heap of apple seeds riding together down the Ohio had stayed with me since I first came across it a few years ago. The scene for me has the resonance of myth, a myth about how plants and people learn to use each other, in the bargain, changing each other and improving their common lot. More than most of us do, Chapman seemed to have had a knack for looking at the world from the plant's point of view, you might say. He understood he was working for the apples as much as they were working for him. Perhaps that's why he sometimes likened himself to a bumblebee, and why he would rig up his boat the way he did. Instead of towing a shipment of seeds behind him, Chapman lashed the two hulls together so they could travel down the river side by side.
In the dark time of the year, they put on their coats and boots, picked up a bowl of hot spiced cider, and tramped out into the freezing cold. The sky was dark, some years full of stars, and some clouded with coming snow. Together, the whole community walked into the apple orchards and began to sing. Old apple tree will wassail thee, and hoping thou wilt bear. The Lord doth know where we may go to be merry another year, to blow well and to bear well, so merry let us be. Let everyone drink up a cup, here's a toast to the old apple tree. High in the tree, the wassail queen climbed to place toast dipped in cider on the branches of the oldest, most fruitful apple tree. Tales told that the oldest apple tree in each orchard housed the apple tree man, a spirit who tended each orchard and helped it bear fruit every year. Now, on the last night of the Yuletide season, the community shared the cider made with the orchard's apples with the fruit of the trees. It is a blessing for a fruitful year. The wassail queen climbed down, and the whole community recited a charm. Here's to thee, old apple tree that blooms well, that bears well. Hats full, caps full, 3 bushel bags full, and all under one tree. Hip, hip, hooray! Then the men of the village fired their guns into the air and moved on to bless the next orchard. Wassailing was, and is, a communal ritual. Everyone participated. In cider-producing regions of England, the entire community joined together to celebrate and bless the fields, orchards, and animals that fed them all year long. In UU terms, wassailing celebrates the interconnected web of life. not just as a theoretical idea, but as an embodied, lived reality. We live in an interconnected world, a world of reciprocal relationships, whether we notice them or not. In the story of the apple tree man, the farmer's son cared for his horse and his cow, his pasture and his orchards, bringing them back to health. And in exchange, the cow gave milk, the horse pulled his wagon, and the apple trees bore fruit. The farmer's son gave the trees the last of his cider as he prepared to say goodbye, and in a magical moment, the apple tree man gave him the money to save his farm. A gift for a gift. Few of us keep cows or apple orchards, but we all relate to the natural world around us. In the fall, here at UUCDC, we bless our animals that share our lives. On this New Year's Eve, we bless our more than human and animal family and friends. Our first principle affirms the inherent worth and dignity of all people, and our seventh principle calls on us to recognize the interconnected web of life. The story of the apple tree man and the practice of wassailing orchards and blessing crops put these two principles into action. As an animist, I believe that all beings have worth and dignity. After all, I rely on them as part of my personal web of life. When I breathe in, my Christmas cactus and my money tree breathe out. I give them water and a warm, sunny shelf, and they draw pollutants out of the air of my house, improving my indoor air quality. We sit together in the sun and enjoy each other's company. I talk to my plants all year. Maybe you do too. But now, at the end of the Yuletide season, I toast my plants and tell them how grateful I am that they share my life. A gift for a gift. Orchard wassails traditionally took place on Twelfth Night, at the end of the 12 days holiday between Christmas and January 6th. Why would anyone toast an apple orchard when it is dormant? Logically, one might raise a glass in the fall when the apple harvest is in, or in the spring when the trees flowered. Certainly, there are harvest festivals and spring festivals, but wassailing specifically took place in the dark time of the year. I'm sure there are many reasons for this, but to me, it is because the Yuletide season is a liminal, in-between time, between the old year and the new. Even in our very hard-headed, I can only believe it if I see it, culture, even we open ourselves to the possibility of magic for a few days at the end of December. Flying reindeer, Christmas miracles, talking apple trees. Just for a moment, we allow ourselves to believe it might be possible. Myths like these tell us not the facts, but a truth about how to live a good and happy life. For just these few days, our imaginations open to allow the possibility that our houseplants can hear song and feel our love and gratitude for their presence in our lives. We wassail our plants, we wassail each other, and we reaffirm the mythic truth of the value of every person, human or other than human, and our ultimate beautiful interconnection. We toast not only our plants and each other, but the buildings we live in and the land around us. Day in and day out, our homes shelter us and keep us safe and warm. Few things soothe the spirit like stepping into the comfort of home after a trying day in the outside world. We tend our houses, fixing leaks, vacuuming floors, swapping light bulbs, and in exchange, we build connections with seemingly inanimate objects. Perhaps in this magical holiday season, we may imagine that our houses have spirits of their own that can feel our love and gratitude for their sheltering rooms and cozy furnishings. Sitting together here in our church's sanctuary, we take a moment to open our hearts and our imagination to the feeling of sacred space. the high vaulted ceiling that liberates soaring souls, the open halls and rooms with space to hold us all, the open windows that grant us a wider perspective on the world beyond. As Ursula Le Guin interprets the Tao teaching, cut doors and windows to make a room. Where the room isn't, there's room for you. Truly, this building we sit in every Sunday becomes a sanctuary for our community from the troubles of the world and the difficulties of daily life. It opens itself for our shelter and inspiration. In this liminal time when apple trees talk and reindeer fly, let us bless and thank our church building for housing our joys and concerns every year. Beyond the windows of our sanctuary, we see the wider world. Year after year, the tulip and maple and oak trees behind me form a living backdrop for our speakers. We track the seasons turning through their leaves and branches. When the windows are open in warm weather, the trees breathe in the words of our hymns, and we breathe in their benediction. Some mornings, a hawk or fox passes by and blesses our service with their presence. Our wild church community sustains the work of this congregation by their presence and inspiration. An ancient cherry tree shades and shelters our children in the playground. Generations of UUCDC children and Rose Tree Day School classes have climbed over its low-lying trunks, exploring imaginary kingdoms and learning UU values of kindness, compassion, and fair play. May the trees of our playground hear our gratitude for the nurturing space they provide to our next generation. May our children find in them the kinship that the farmer's son felt for his own apple orchard. In our memorial garden, surrounded by sheltering trees, rest our beloved dead. They return to us in moments of quiet. Their voices speak wisdom in our hearts when we feel alone and unsure. The gentle breeze carries a memory of their touch. We raise our glasses in love and greeting, for they remain a part of our community as long as memory holds them here. Our community extends across the web of life, and those strands of reciprocity and connection become more visible in the soft lights of the Yuletide season. As we begin our new year together with our more than human community, may we give our gratitude and our love to that web of life that it may give love and health in return, a gift for a gift. So now, let us share our holiday cheer and blessings with the wider world. In a moment, I will invite you all to come up, if you are willing and able, and take a glass of apple cider, but don't drink it yet. Our music director, Bob Rowland, will teach us our final Wassail carol. Then Joe, Leah, and I will open our doors and windows so that our forest, our playground, and our beloved dead in the memorial garden may hear our wassail. We will raise our glasses, toast, drink, and sing to our beloved community, and then we will close with our benediction. Now please come up the center aisle, collect your glasses, and return down the side aisle. While Leah, Joe, and I open the doors.
Go this way.
Text. This is a Cornish wassail, and it goes like this. Now Christmas is coming and New Year begins. Pray open your door and let us come in. Doesn't need to be that loud, I don't think. Let's try it.
It's joyous.
Now Christmas is coming and New Year begins. Pray open your door and let us come in. With our wassail, 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 and joy come to our jolly wassail. Let's try the second part, the refrain. With our wassail, 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 and joy come to our jolly wassail. Okay, and if you don't like the chorus, you can always sing this part, which I'm going to play on the piano. Wassail, 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 wassail. Okay, let's try the whole thing before we do it for real. Whole thing, 1, 2. Now Christmas is coming and New Year begins. Pray open your door and let us come in. With our wassail, 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 and joy come to our jolly wassail. Good, I think we've got it. Let's try it. Okay. Now Christmas is coming and New Year begins. Pray open your door and let us come in. With our wassail, 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 and joy come to our jolly wassail. We hope that your apple trees prosper and bear, and bring forth good tidings when we come next year. With our wassail, 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 and joy come to our jolly wassail. We hope that your barley will prosper and grow, that you may have plenty and more to bestow. With our wassail, 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 and joy come to our jolly wassail. Now Christmas is coming and New Year begins. Now open your door and let us come in. With our wassail, 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 and joy come to our jolly wassail.
Here's to our beloved community, to our friends and family, both human and not. Here's to our hearth and our homes and our heart places. Here's to the plants and animals that enrich our lives and to the earth that sustains us. Hip, hip, hooray!
Wow, I'll tell you, huh? So I want to thank our hospitality team, Leah, Elliot, Victoria, Skip back on the AV team and the other folks helping him, and Bob. Thank you as always for the wonderful music this morning. Music, I don't think you probably played most of that here before, have you?
No, not here. No.
Most of all, I do want to thank Lisa Jacobs. Lisa, let's give her a round of applause. Huh? Lisa, brought her spirit and her creativity to developing this service. I'm really most grateful. And please come up and give us our benediction.
For those who come here seeking God, may God go with you. For those who come embracing life, may life return your affection. And for those who come to seek a path, may a way be found and the courage to take it step by step. Blessed be and Happy New Year.